Hi everybody, all my followers, be welcome to another video. Right, the video today is on this 2011 Peugeot 508 GT with the 2.2 liter HDI engine, diesel engine, with 200 brake horsepower. And right, let's go and get inside the car and let me take you through. So basically guys, this is the second time I'm actually recording this video, and the reason for that is no more nor less than the fact that on the first clip I've done here, so I've done about 5 minutes of footage, which I'm not going to incorporate here because halfway through that video I had to ring the owner to gather a little bit more information, and that's when the beginning of that video go a little bit sideways. So I thought I will just restart again and I will make everything a little bit more flowing a little bit better with all the information I have now. So the car was brought to me. So this car belongs to a colleague of work. Well, it doesn't really work with me, but it works for the same, well, it doesn't really matter. It is a colleague of work, if you will, and I was asked to look at these by his boss. Anyway, long story short, he ended up here, and the issue, I was asked to look at the car because the car, and these was actually the words used by the owner, was the car has no power, it looks like it's in limp mode. Now, when I was asked to look at the car, apparently from my understanding, the car had been somewhere. I'm not sure if it was on the same place where it's been last, which I'll take you through in a second, or if it was a different place, but apparently the car would have been already somewhere because he rang me before the date I'm going to show you in a second, which means obviously when he told me the car has already been somewhere, blah blah blah, that means it was not that place, or it could have been that place but he went the second time. So that was the complaint. No power, the car's been elsewhere already, still the same. He said to me that so this is why he said that the EGR has been cleaned and the pressure sensor for the EGR has been changed. I don't think there's a pressure sensor for the EGR. I think what he's talking about is the pressure sensor in the throttle body, which I believe is going to be the turbo pressure sensor, or the intake manifold pressure sensor, if you will, which when I had a quick look that day, it looked a little bit cleaned, so it might be the one he's referring to. Now, so the car came, and when I was scanning the car, that's when I got a little bit confused. But now that I have all the information, I will take you through. So, very quickly, I'm going to plug in the Maxis and I'm going to show you the codes again, because it's going to be important for us to look at the codes and look at some paperwork. So just hold a second while I load the data, load everything, and I will start to take you through. Okay, so the car just went into economy mode, but doesn't matter. We still be able to do what we need to do. So the first thing, the first reason why I decided to ring the owner is because, so today, let me see what day is today. Today is Tuesday, the 21st of March, 2023. The car was dropped here on Friday night, which was the 17th. And the initial clip that I've showed you at the start of the video was recorded on the following day, on the 18th. And when I looked here on this new information, I've seen this. Downloading date 15/03/2023. So 2 days before, the ECU was reflashed. And I want to understand what was done to the car. I want to understand who did this, etc, etc. So I rang the guy, and he basically told me that was Peugeot. So that was Peugeot that did this. They reflashed the ECU in an attempt to fix the problem. So I didn't ask, but at this point I'm not sure if the previous place was already Peugeot or if it was an independent garage that looked at the car and he took it the second time to Peugeot. I'm not sure. All I know is that Peugeot did this. He still didn't fix the problem. They didn't really knew what to do. So he decided, so apparently they want the car for longer, but he had already a lot of costs with this, and he just asked me if I could have a look. Anyway, so he brought me, so I've seen this error in the guy, I've asked him that. So once I gathered that information, I've asked him, okay, if it was Peugeot, I've asked him, look, is the car still in limp mode? So my question was, when he drove the car to me, was the car still in that sort of no power? And he explained me a little bit better that it's basically, you put your foot down, he said the car goes, but there is no power. There is no, he never used the word boost, but, and you'll see in a minute why I mentioned the boost now. He never used that word, just said the car is sluggish. It goes, but it goes really slow. It doesn't really, he said the car used to be really fast. You put your foot down and the car was responsive, and now it's just sluggish. It takes a lot of time to go, etc., etc. So I then scanned the car. By the way, he told me that he had some paperwork on the back seat with some codes, which obviously I don't need them, but he actually became a little bit helpful. So this was the codes on the car, which was the reason why I rang him as well, was because this P0611 to me is like when the injectors are not programmed, that P0611. So at this point, it says intermittent, but at this point, I didn't clear the codes, as you can see. Everything's still here as it was at the start. And to me, it means one of the two. Either Peugeot reflashed the ECU and never reprogrammed the injectors, which a lot of the times they need to be reprogrammed because they are cleared during the reflashing of the module. Or they did program the injectors and they just never came back to clear the codes. That's for my last code. I don't think these will put the car in limp mode, but you never know. The first one, to be fair with you, I'm not really worried about. Peugeot and Citroën, they are known for sending these CAN faults and multiplex network faults. It could have been for when the ECU was reflashed again. The other codes are not being cleared. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't drove the car yet. Very important, this bit. I haven't drove the car, nor I clear the faults to see what comes back straight away. But one thing I've done, which was just see what codes we have on the injectors. Usually when the injectors codes are cleared, the injectors either comes up with dashes or X's or F's or some sort of random lettering. I've checked this coding. I've checked all 4 injectors and all the codes match the codes stamped on the injectors themselves. So these match injector 1. Then if I go to injector 2, there's another code in there. That matches what's on the car. And I could just carry on with the other ones, but there is no point. All 4 injectors are programmed. So might be that when I clear the codes, that code actually goes away and doesn't come back. This is me thinking that the P0611 is for injector coding. I really hope it is. Usually is. From top of my head, I think it is, so we'll see. Now, from these codes, the code that really caught my eye was the P0299. Turbo pressure regulation fault, air pressure below set point. So this to me basically means that the turbo is not boosting what the car is asking for. Now, when I grabbed, let me see just if there's any information here that can be claimed as confidential. Not really. No, not really. So this was the scan done on a Peugeot on the 15th of March at 15:44 at the end of the day. So I'm not going to say, but I believe the flashing of this ECU was done on the same day, and I'm guessing that either this was done before the flashing or it was done after the flashing. Now, the important part here is that all the codes here, which I'll take you in a minute, there's only one code that is common on both, on the tool and on here. There's only one code that is common on both. And to me, that is the code that is causing the car to go into limp mode, okay? Or lack of power. So, we have a few codes here, and the first code we have is P0263, injector 1 control fault. Okay? So, not worried about this code. This code is not here now, so I'm not too worried about this at the moment. The car was drove up to here and never throw that code again. So as you can see, there's no code being thrown. That code is never being thrown again. So I'm not too worried with that code for now. Then we have a P0656 fuel fault fuel level below the critical threshold. Not too worried about that either. Then you have the list of the associated faults, blah 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 blah. And then you have the P0299, which is the code we have in there. That one in there, in the middle. And then you have the associated variable was blah 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 blah. And then if you see in there, so as you can see in there, the turbo charging pressure reference was asking for 3.5 millibars, and the turbo charging pressure was giving 2.2 millibars. That's when the fault was thrown. Okay, I haven't looked through the live data on this. I'm just showing you now. But so basically, guys, this is the problem. I know it's 7 minutes already. Well, actually more than that. But I thought it was important to take you through this bit to show you my line of thinking. So to me right now, and my thinking might be really biased, but to me is that code. Is that code right? Is that code that is causing my problem? Okay, so I think what we're going to do next, I don't know if I'm going to do that today, to be fair, because I have other things to do, but the next thing you're going to see me doing, guys, is driving this thing and try to feel the problem, try to feel exactly what's wrong with this, because a lot of the times that's really important, is feel the problem, is see the problem with your own eyes, experience the problem yourself. It's very difficult, even like on YouTube and Patreon, etc. It's very difficult sometimes for me to help people because I'm based on what someone is telling me, and if the description is not 100% accurate, it can be very difficult to advise. And sometimes, guys, it's in the tiny details that the answer is. So yeah, so I want to go for a drive, see how the car drives, and I think that's what you're gonna see me doing next. Okay, so I actually still have a little bit, so let's gonna start this thing. One thing I would like to mention is that I was never told that the engine lights are on or anything along those lines. So as far as I'm aware, how do I turn this off? That's off. Okay, so let's gonna go for a quick drive and see what happens. I'm gonna take the maxi keys with me, so the codes are still there. So my plan is, because I don't want to clear the codes in case if the clearing of the codes just temporarily, I would say, fix the problem. So I want to go with the codes in there. Then if we have to stop somewhere to clear the codes and then see what the car does, if it does the same thing or if the fault returns, we'll have to go and see exactly what's going on. But yeah, so let's kind of go and see what happens. So how you drive this thing? So there, okay, and brake. Where is then the brake? Is here, like that. Yeah, that's like that. Right, let's go. Okay, so let's go. Okay, first impression, not really sure what my first impression is. Let me okay, let's gonna go that way, because that way I can I can try the car a little bit here. Okay, so first impressions. So let me try this again. So what gear is on the car? It's in third gear. It's in third gear. Jesus. There's no power whatsoever. Wow. Right, so 40 miles per hour. Is in fourth gear now. Fifth gear. Let me accelerate. So fourth gear. So accelerate it turned fourth. I have my foot all the way down. Look at that, in fourth gear. All the way down. I haven't kicked down because obviously you have that switch for the kick down. I haven't pressed that, but I had my foot all the way down. The car, the way I feel it is there is no turbo. Okay, first of all, I can't even hear the turbo spooling or spinning, which if you hear it too much can be a bad thing, but you can usually hear the whistling of the turbo a little bit, and I can't hear that at all. So yeah, so let me turn around and let's gonna experience this again. The car just feels like a normal 2-liter diesel, and probably not even that. Right, let's try this again. So third, my foot is down. Wow. Wow. There's nothing here. There's literally nothing. Right, so to me is no turbo on this thing. Now I can't hear any whistlings as if you have a boost leak or something like that. I just cannot hear the turbo working. Yeah, it's just that. So let me see if we can stop somewhere so I can load some live data on the Maxisys, so I can look at some live data quickly, and then not really sure. Then I might clear the codes to see exactly what happens next. I would like to see how quick the fault sets and all that good stuff. Yeah, that is really sluggish. Right, so we've seen roughly what the car does. I can confirm the fault or the problem, and this just reinforces even more my suspicions that the issue with this is turbo related. So that's just another conclusion that I can get from this quick test drive, is that it is indeed a turbo problem. So yeah, so let's gonna do that, load some live data, just confirm that the turbo is not giving anything, and then we'll go from there. So let me turn around here. Okay, so I've loaded some live data, as you can see. So I have two graphics here. One, this one below is the turbocharger position and the reading, the feedback from the actually actuator. So I want to make sure the turbo is going where it's supposed to be, the position of the actuator. And then here at the top we have the reference value, which is what the ECU is asking for, and we have the measured pressure, which is how much the turbo is actually giving. So I might just leave this here and then we'll analyze this. I'm going to put this oh, this is for the one below, isn't it? We'll put it on to 8 so we can see. I'll show you. So we'll record more live data for a longer period of time. So let's gonna drive and it's gonna see what it does. So I'm on this stretch. I'm gonna put my foot down a little bit. And straight away in there, you can definitely see that on the bottom graphic, the position of the actuator is going exactly where it should be. But you can see on the topic graph, you can see that the blue line is what the ECU is asking for and the green line is what the turbo is giving. And as you can see, the turbo is not get even close. I'm still in the middle of the village, so I don't want to be doing anything silly around here, but as soon as you get to that main road in there, I will accelerate a little bit and we should be able to see. I'm gonna go this way now. Okay, foot down. Look how bad it is. The actuator is absolutely spot on where it should be. Let me pass these apertures and then we should be able. Okay, so second gear, my foot is all the way down. There is no turbo. So fourth gear, my foot is all the way down. Look how much this ECU is asking for. Look at that. Absolutely terrible. Right. So with this live data, I think is now absolutely clear that my problem is my turbo. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn around, I'm going to clear the codes on ECU, and turn around here. I'm going to turn around somewhere here. Okay. Okay, very important here. Can you see this spike here? For a split of a second, I had boost and I could feel it. I could feel the car going. So what exactly is going on? On this point, nothing happens in there, so everything was exactly the same. So yeah, it was just this one time so far that I've actually had this blip where I had the boost. So right, this is interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so another thing now that I've loaded is the EGR position. So as you can see, because it moves exactly at the same time, you can see the scale here is exactly the same, so they follow each other absolutely perfect. This is the EGR reference value, in that the green one is the feedback from the EGR valve position sensor, but the turbo is just not there. Obviously sometimes the green line is above, but just see that this scale is different. So for example here where they are flat, the green is showing 1030 millibars and the blue is showing about the same really. so it's not asking for boost. It's just like now it's not asking for boost. But then when you have these spikes here, the ECU was asking for about 2,500, and that was giving about 1,100 millibars, whatever. I could not make that. I could not make that bleep to happen again. But I just thought about make sure the EGR is also giving or doing what's supposed to be doing, which it could be passing. It's not. It's a possibility. But guys, I said this many times, and at the moment is just talking and talking. I cannot feel the turbo. I cannot hear the turbo. There's no turbo on this car. So let's gonna drive back home and let's see what we're gonna do with this, how we're gonna approach this. Am I gonna do a, I could probably do a leak test, a smoke test, perhaps, or I can just, I think the best thing to do, guys, to start with is a visual inspection. Let's gonna do a visual inspection on this thing, see if there's anything that we can see that might be out of the ordinary, etc, etc. So yeah, let's gonna do that first. Worth maybe to mention, I can't hear any funny noises. So I can't hear the turbo, but I cannot hear any funny noises. There's no rattlings, there's no clicks, there's no funny noises. Other than that, the car sounds okay and drives okay. So that's the only thing I could feel. Oh, I haven't done that yet. Actually, I can do that even here. This road is a little bit bumpy, but let's gonna come out of live data quickly and let's come back. Let's gonna go to trouble codes again. It's gonna clear these codes. Do I need to? Yeah, whatever. Actually, let me go back and do this right. So the car has 124. Oh, come on. It has 124. 054. Because I have the engine running, isn't it? Okay, let's gonna stop the engine then. Ignition on. Let's try this again. Ah, same mistake again. Cleaning faults failed. What am I doing wrong? Man, really? I need to put the key on this thing here. On this holder. Really? Oh, come on, Lewis. I hate Peugeots for this. Oh, come on! Why is it not clearing the fault? Right, let me figure this out. Hey, success! Right, okay. Clear and turn the ignition off and turn again. So ignition off. Ignition back on. Okay. No turbo codes. Right, so we come out of this issue. So now let's go and start this thing again. Engine off. Okay. Actually, let's just go. Oh, now I have turbo. Now I have turbo. Hold on. Or it looked like I have turbo. Live data, that's gonna go. Or not. Let me get in a place where I can actually. It looked like a little bit of boost in there. Let's look and confirm with my live data if there is or not. I know, guys, this is just talking about driving around, but this is important sometimes to be done for understanding what the problems are and have a good feeling of what might be wrong with a car, rather than just start to throw parts at it or start to guess, which is a very, very bad idea and is an idea that can become expensive very quick. So let me get here now on this main road again. Oh, right. I don't know if it was just me or if actually the car boosted in there. Now this is the moment of the truth. Yeah, it does have turbo now. You can see that not just on my live data, but the car now goes. So 100% we do have boost now. Let me see what it needs to be done for the fault to come back on. At least I do know now that clearing the faults gets me the car back to full power, because I can now know that if I clear the faults I should have full boost. Okay, and he's gone again. Okay, and he's gone again. As you can see on the live data as well, right there, my boost is just gone again. So it gave me that little bit of boost in there, and obviously the car must have, yeah, there's no boost again. Okay, so now we have a good feeling of the problem. And I'm not gonna bother you anymore with talking and driving around. Let's gonna get under that bonnet and see if we can find any issues. Well, there's gonna be an issue there somewhere, obviously. Okay, and we just roll back home, and yeah, as you can see in there again, we have no boost. So let's just go, oh come on, let's just go back quickly, see if the car has flagged no codes. Really? Nah, that can't be right. No chance. Okay, and with just my neighbor here, first car I'm doing for my neighbors. Anyway, so yeah, so key is off. Let's gonna turn this on again. I don't understand why it didn't flag a code. It must Nah, something is not right. Right, it is no boost, and I'm sure this will be flagging a code at some point. The same P0299. There is no boost, it is unquestionable. I just don't understand why he's doing this. Why is not flagging a code? It was definitely not flagging a engine ECU, as you have seen, when the car lost the boost. Even before, was no boost and was no engine ECU. No engine ECU, was no engine light, which is a little bit odd as well, to be fair with you. It should have thrown a engine light. Really weird. Anyway, now I have the key off, so it should not be able to communicate. Yeah, okay, no worries. Okay, let's kind of put ignition on again. Just try to see if I could see, unless it needs to be triggered more than once. But oh well, whatever. There is definitely no boost on this thing. That's no questions asked. Yeah, that's no questions asked. Right, so let's see what we're gonna do next. Okay, so a few days later, back onto this, and as you can see, been doing a smoke test, if you will, a leak test into the intake system, and unfortunately nothing found. So a couple of days ago, or a few days ago, I've actually done, well, I was to put the clip here just before now, but I just thought nothing really came out of it. But basically what I've done was, I've done pretty much what I've done here, but I put the camera through there all the way down up to the compressor wheel. I'll put the video maybe somewhere here, and I was not looking for nothing in particular. I think I was just looking to see if it was anything that would get my attention. I don't know, maybe damage compressor wheel blades or something along those lines. Unfortunately or fortunately, nothing out of the ordinary. The wheel looked okay, no damage. I pushed the camera all the way up to the blades, and the compressor wheel moved, so it doesn't look like it's seized or anything like that. So I couldn't really see nothing. And today, as you can see, we are just doing a smoke test, and unfortunately, nothing. I got all the way up to about a bar of pressure, smoke, no smoke coming out of anywhere. So there is definitely no leaks. However, and this is a little bit interesting, I'm not sure where that's coming from. There's a lot of oil scattered at the back of the engine, around the turbo area. I'm not sure where that's coming from. It could be, I don't know, it might be from the gasket at the top. I'm not 100% sure where that is from. But it's definitely no leaks. There's no smoke coming from anywhere. So there's only a couple things more that can be causing this issue. Oh, before I go anywhere as well, let me take you these as well. So I've done a turbocharger test, which there's two ways to do it with the Maxi-Sys. I'm not going to take you through, but I will explain it quickly. You can do it with the engine off or with the engine running. When I've done it with the engine running. You need to have the engine warmed up. So I've done the test, and basically what the test does is, with the engine stationary, the Maxi-Sys activates the turbo from the rest position, or let's say from where the boost, obviously this is a VNT turbo, it's a variable geometry turbo, VGT, sorry. And obviously when you start the engine, the lever moves just a tiny bit, and that's the full boost, if you will. And then as you accelerate, when the boost reaches the maximum, the arm should start to move to decrease the boost so it doesn't overboost. What the car does is, when you press that test, it revs the engine up, and then there is 2 or 3 stages for that test, and then basically what the Maxi-Sys does is moves the VNT the VGT. He moves the lever of the turbo back and forwards from the first position to halfway to maximum position, and does that 2 or 3 times, and then he shows you a result. And basically the result, funny enough, he says intake hose or turbo hose disconnected or unplugged or something like that, which is pretty much saying, yeah, I'm changing the turbo position, but the pressure is not really changing. Yeah, there's only a couple more things that can be causing this issue from the way I look at this. One is going to be the turbo, obviously. The other one could be the exhaust system blocked. Now, I've checked the DPF back pressures on this, and the back pressure on this on the Maxi Cs is showing 6 millibars, which is spot on, is where it should be. But we do have the catalytic converter before the DPF, and my pressure is being measured on the DPF itself. We could have a bad catalytic converter. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna I don't know, go in that route. Why would be the catalytic converter blocked? The car, other than the boost, revs okay. I can't feel any sort of, you know, sluggish on the engine revs or anything like that. So I'm starting to try to blame the turbo, and there's a few more checks I want to do. Not sure which ones I'm going to do first, but there's a couple things I want to do, and I guess I'll take you through as I go along. Okay guys, and this is not even the same day. This is actually 2 or 3 days later. I just come off night shifts, had a few hours sleep in the morning, and got back into this. And right, there's going to be a little bit of talking now, because for a couple of reasons. Because to be fair with you, okay, let me put it like this. So after all the tests we've done, as I said, could only be 2 things. One would be the exhaust system blocked, not allowing the turbo to spool. I removed the temperature sensor that is right on the outfield of the turbo, and I went for a quick drive at the end of the road. My only idea was to see if that would improve anything, because obviously if the exhaust would escape through there before the catalytic converter and would reduce the pressure. So if that was my issue, I could see a little bit of improvement. Probably, I don't know if I would or not. I just thought I'll give it a go. That didn't make a difference, and the only other thing really was the turbo itself. Now, what I've done is, so basically guys, the turbo is out. It was an absolutely nightmare to remove this turbo without dropping the subframe. As you can see, the subframe, everything is in place. So the turbo actually came out from the top. So I had to remove this module that leaves right there at the back. I had to remove a couple brackets that are secured here around the fuel pump. I had to remove the turbo actuator, the electronic turbo actuator, before I removed the turbo, to give me a little bit more room. It was an absolutely nightmare, but it came out right through here, guys. Okay, so as you can see, everything else at the bottom is still in place. The turbo, there's no chance to come out at the bottom unless you remove the catalytic converter, at least the catalytic converter. I did not remove the catalytic converter. I removed the bolt that holds the cat right there at the back of the engine, and then I removed the cover for this drive shaft, which is here, and that exposes 2 bolts right there behind this here that holds the catalytic to the engine block, and that allows me the entire catalytic converter to swivel like this, because once I removed all the bolts at the back of the engine, on the turbo that holds the turbo to the manifold, these 3 bolts in there, the turbo doesn't slide out, because the turbo on the actually what you call it, I forgot the name now, where the turbo goes into the catalytic converter is not sort of flush. It has a little bit of, it protrudes a little bit inside the catalytic converter, and that prevented the turbo from just slide out of the 3 bolts or studs. So I really had to release in there so I could swivel a little bit, and as soon as I done that, the turbo came out. Then to get it out of there, it doesn't just come out, you need to kind of rotate and twist it a little bit until it comes out. Now, why did I remove the turbo? So before I removed the turbo, before I did anything, as I said, the lever was moving absolutely perfect. So what I've done is I removed the little circlip that holds the, so there is the circlip right there, that holds the actuator to a little bit of, it's like a rod. It's not a rod in this case, it's like a plate that then goes into the turbo actually lever. And when I removed that and I moved that lever up and down, I could, for the sake of me, I could not feel nothing moving inside the turbo. The movement was so free that it led me to think, even though the turbo was actuating, was nothing moving inside the turbo. So basically the geometry inside the turbo is stuck in one position. Let me show you. So yeah, it's been a right. So what I'm trying to say is right here. So when I move these back and forwards here, obviously guys, you can't feel through this the phone obviously or hear it, but it looks like this is moving. The shaft at the bottom that goes inside this exhaust side of the turbo is moving, obviously the shaft, because all these is in place. But when I move it, I don't feel anything moving inside. Usually you hear a little bit of a sort of, it's not grinding, but you hear the veins and all that mechanism sort of, you know, touching the insides and moving. You can't feel anything. So I have a feeling that something is wrong inside this turbo. So let's go and open this turbo and hopefully prove our suspicions or confirm our suspicions. And this, guys, is probably the best sensation in the world. Is when you prove yourself right. I'm not gonna lie, I was not 100% sure that this would be the issue, but I was like 99.9999999% sure, which was enough for me to go the route of removing the turbo. And I'm gonna show you now that I was right. So see if I can put some light here so you can actually see. Okay, so you can see the veins in there, the geometry. Where are they? Right there in the middle, these little veins. And look what happens when I move the lever. Nothing happens inside. Look. So the geometry, it was stuck on the low boost position. If the geometry was stuck on the position from when you start the engine, which is basically giving full boost, the car would have overboost faults. But because it got stopped at the other end, it gave underboost. So let's go to now remove, or try to remove, the actually geometry out, so we can actually see what happened in there. Okay, so I had to drill one of the bolts. There's two bolts holding this geometry assembly. They are these ones. One came out, the other one no chance. I had to drill it, as you can see in there. But I'm just about now to manage to take these off, and I just thought I will take you through as I open this, because we're all going to see at the same time exactly what happened with this turbo. There's so much carbon falling to the floor. I will then have to take that bolt out, but oh man, okay, so you can see that here there is something there that was left behind. There you go, and I've seen it, and I've seen what's wrong. So let me show you in there. See if I can show you this. So I believe that here is where the geometry is actually okay, as you can see, and here look how much carbon, these hasn't been running for ages, look how much carbon is built up like that. This little pin, there we go. So this little pin should be right there. Should be right there at the end of this lever. So that's the lever that moves in there, and it should have a pin, which is this pin, that should then engage in there like so, and would move the geometry. And these obviously just snapped. Right, wow. My only problem now is how are we gonna fix this? Probably the best way is gonna be to get a turbo cartridge. This turbo is actually good. There's no play on it. It's moving freely. It's just that. I'm gonna take this bolt out somehow. Now, if I could weld this little pin in there again, but it's gonna be nearly impossible, because how the hell are you gonna weld this in there? No one is gonna do it. Right, let me think. Okay, and now that it is cleaned, you can definitely see much better what happened. So this was the pin. As you can see, the pin is just like, is slightly smaller in the middle, and I'm not sure, oh sorry, it's on this side. So as you can see, this area here in the middle is actually what I was protruding out to push in that little hole where it snapped. Now I'm not sure if this is just pushed in, or if it's just pushed in and then is like tack welded like is on this side. I'm not sure, but this basically is where that pin should be. Okay, so if I buy the cartridge, it will come with everything, so that will be sorted. However, there's nothing really wrong. One, with this turbo is absolutely fine. There's no play on it. I've been kind of washing it and pushed some stuff there. It is cleaned. There's no play on the shaft or anything like that. The geometry is actually moving very freely, as you can see. So when you look in there, so like so, everything is moving okay. The vanes are not damaged or anything like that. They are a little bit dirty because obviously the turbo has not been spooling, so the air has just been kind of going on the same sort of direction, not the same direction. It's been obviously just doing the same sort of path all the time, and it was just built with carbon here, as you've seen as well. Yeah, other than that, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have how to weld these in there again, so I'm not really sure how we're going to fix this, but we'll see what we're going to do. Let me think. And one quick thing that I forgot, the reason why I could not take the turbo without moving the catalytic converter is because of this B here. So if this was just flush here, the turbo would just slide out, or would have to force it a little bit, but it would slide out. But because of this, I could not take it out without moving the catalytic converter out of the way. So that's why I had to reach those two bolts to free it up so I could tilt it a little bit. So yeah, just because I think I forgot to mention that. Okay, and about hour and a half gave me enough time to go to my good friend Helder. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below in case you guys are interested to look him up. And basically I went in there and he soldered the pin back in place. So you can see there is a little bit of solder sort of coming up like that, because he had to solder obviously around there. He couldn't do the solder on the other side. The pin is obviously not going to go anywhere now. It's soldered, but this little bit of level now is not enough to reach anything here, so it's still okay. So the geometry, as I'm going to show you, is still in place or no? Yeah, it is. Like so, like that. There we go. So that's in place. I just need the screws, and as you can see now, you can see inside. You can see maybe there. No, huh? Can't really see in there, can you? just about. So now I can feel the movement inside. So all I'm going to do now, guys, is put the turbo all back together. I'm not going to have the time today to put it back. I'm not going to take you through the process of putting it back. It's just nuts and bolts. I already skipped the whole process of removing it, so I'm not going to go through the putting it back. It's literally nuts and bolts. You can figure out everything as you go along if you decide to take this job. The only bit obviously was the catalytic converter. I already took you through that. You need to get to those two bolts in order to lose the cat, so you can tilt it to remove the turbo out of the manifold. So I think the next time you're going to see me, guys, is going to be when everything is back in place and ready to start the engine and give it a test. Unless in the process I find something that I deemed as worth the mention. Otherwise it's just a straightforward process of putting everything back on. So that's it. We saved the turbo, hopefully. This will be good. The turbo is good, and that's the... initially I thought it would be leaking oil, but when I inspected, it's actually not. It's obviously the normal amount of oil on the intake pipes, etc., but it's nothing like exaggerated. There's no play on this turbo that raises any concerns. There is a little bit of turbo, like side to side, a little bit of play, sorry, side to side, like this, which is normal. Obviously the turbo rides on a film of oil, so it's normally have this little bit of play, which is where the oil is going to be. But the play you can't really have on a turbo is up and down, or in this case, and there's nothing on this turbo. This turbo is absolutely perfect. Otherwise I would have bought either a turbo or a cartridge, and we would replace the cartridge. Obviously the cartridge would come with a new pin with disassemble, so would fix it that way. But I thought about recovering the turbo, which we did. Hopefully this will work. This pin is gonna go nowhere. It's proper soldered in there, or welded in there. So that's it. So guys, that's it. So the next time you're gonna see me now is gonna be when everything is in place. It's not gonna be today because well, it's gonna be dark in no time, but I'll have time now to put all these back together, and I think that's it. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Okay guys, next day, and we are very close to be ready. I just have the wheel to put back on, and let me take this. It was me to not hurt my knees, and we have some coolant to top up because the turbo is water cooled, and when I removed the water cooled pipes out, obviously I've lost a little bit of coolant, so we're gonna top it up. But everything is in place, guys, so all the intake, everything is in place, underneath everything is in place. So once this is done, I should be ready to start the engine. I do believe there is a procedure to relearn the turbo actuator. Because we had everything out, obviously things never go back in the exact same position. There is a possibility that we might gonna have to do that. But if we do have to do that, I will either take you through, or I will just highlight the fact that we had to do it. And once this is done, we should be ready, guys, to go for a test drive, and fingers crossed that's going to fix my problem. I still have this tray at the front to put as well, that cover on top of the engine in there, not the engine, this cover here. But anyway, that's details. So yeah, once that's done, we should be ready to go for a drive, and hopefully to see this car driving as it should. Okay, so all done. The engine is ready to be started. I topped it up with the antifreeze, etc. This car is not one of those fancy ones where you need to vacuum the coolant system, blah blah blah. This is just a normal top up. There is a bleeder right here at the top, right there. You can see here on this pipe. This is the one that goes to the heater matrix inside the car, or heat exchanger. So you can open this. At the moment I opened it, and the water is not there yet, but because that's the highest point, I opened it just to see if there's any hair that would, as I top it up, just so it would allow air to come out from there. I've closed it again. Now we're going to start the engine. I'm going to let the engine to warm up, go up to temperature, make sure it doesn't overheat or anything like that, make sure the coolant circulates okay. With the engine running, we'll open that a few times, that bleeder, to make sure any air in the system comes out of there. But before we do that, and I already have the MaxiSys connected, before that, so I have the ignition on. Let me just and we're just going to go quickly to diagnosis, control unit. I guess I'm going to have loads of codes. I never start the engine, nor I turn the ignition on while I was doing this, but I was here locking and unlocking the car, and obviously the car woke up and probably throw some faults. I had that module disconnected as well, the one by the brake booster, so I could get the thing out. There we go. So we have all these codes, all intermittent. So I'm just going to clear these DTCs. I don't even care what we have in there. Okay. And now I don't know the mileage of the car, because the car is in... Come on, show me the mileage. The car is in... Come on. 124,056. So that's going to be... 124,056. Am I correct to think I had to have the car? Yeah, I think I had to have the car in neutral or something like that. I think it was that. There we go. So let's try this again. Anyway, guys, I'm going to clear the codes, and then I'm going to see if there is a procedure to reland the turbo. I'm not very keen to just go again. It was that. Oh, come on, really? Can't remember what do I need to do. Oh, I remember the key needs to be on this reader down here as well. I think it was that. It was like that. Let me see if it was that. Hey! Okay, turn ignition off and on again. Ignition off. Ignition back on. Okay, I know there's a little bit of glare, but we're just clearing the code. So no code stored. Now I'm going to go back quickly and see if there's anything for turbo learning or something like that. So that's going to do... no, it's not programming, isn't it? I'm sure it's not. Nah, it is off air mixer now. I don't think it's this. It's parts replacement, I'm pretty sure it is. Turbocharger replacement. Yeah, it's gonna be that one. Turn ignition off and on again. So ignition off. I know we did not replace the turbo, but we had it open, we had everything in bits, so obviously things might not be exactly... There we go, completed. There we go. So it's basically just probably a reset. It's probably just moved the lever from... I couldn't hear it, but probably just moved the lever from one extreme to the other extreme and recorded or saved the new positions. So what we're going to do now is literally crank this thing. Right. That's gonna do it. Okay. So let's gonna check the water or the coolant. Okay, I'm gonna have to put so I'm gonna do this procedure, guys. I'm gonna have to put the heater matrix on full blast, as hot as possible. That's basically so it asks for the coolant to circulate and all that good stuff, and yeah, so that's what we need to do. And then once I'm happy with everything, I'll come back, and then yes, we should be ready to go for a test, basically. Okay, so I've been here, tried to warm up the engine. The engine has been running here now for about 45 minutes, and I'm really struggling to get anywhere above 80. I believe the thermostat opens at about 87 or 88 degrees. For the water to really start to circulate all over, but I managed to get about 3 liters of coolant into the system. I don't think I've lost much more than that, and there is no hair coming out on the highest point on that pipe, on that hose that I've showed you. Every time I take that, it's just water flowing or coolant. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a quick test drive and see what happens. In the meantime, to try to help the water to circulate, I've been here slightly revving the engine, or just rev up the engine a little bit. And guys, I can hear the turbo. Obviously, I think there is no doubt now, after what we have seen, that was the problem, and that there's no reasons why the turbo is not going to work, unless there's other issues that the turbo is going to highlight now. But I can definitely hear the turbo spooling. So we're going to go for a quick test drive. I'm going to actually load the live data for the turbo again, so we can see what the turbo does. And I think that's it. So I think I'm going to use my other phone to record the live data, and I'm going to put this phone here again on that thing. Since I told them I'll be buying another one, it's been working really well. The car is here for over a week, and that thing is just stayed in there. Right, anyway, let's gonna go. Let's gonna get everything set up, and let's gonna go for a quick test drive. Okay, so let's gonna load the live data for the turbo. As you can see, I have the engine temperature as well, so just we can control that. Yeah, so let's gonna go. Right, let's gonna pull it a little bit. Oh, what a different car. Wow, what a different car. So I think, as you can see, let me turn this way. As you can see on the live data, the lines don't lie. Oh yeah. Right, another thing that I think I might gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to monitor a little bit the DPF. It's not gonna be part of this video, but I'm gonna have to monitor that, because the DPF was showing about 95% full, and the way this car has been running, it's probably not been doing any regenerations or anything like that, and obviously we don't want the car to develop any other issues. So I think I'm going to monitor the DPF a little bit while I'm test driving the car, and if he asks for a regeneration, I will allow it to do it. But so my foot down. Oh yeah. Down a bit. Guys, you are looking at the live data. I think there is no questions now that the car is fixed. Temperature just gone up to 85 degrees, 86, so we're going to monitor that as well. But guys, I'm really happy with the result. So I'm gonna, as I said, we're going to monitor the DPF side of things, make sure everything is good with that. And I think I'm gonna turn to this here. Gotta go this way. So that's it, guys. I don't need to carry on showing you this live data. So obviously the car is fixed, and in the end it was just that little pin that broke from the turbo lever, and the turbo was stuck in that position. and obviously was no boosting. So if that would have stopped on the opposite side, the turbo, the geometry, we would have over boost, because obviously the car would be boosting all the time on maximum, but it didn't. It got stuck on the other end, and yeah. What else to say? We got it fixed, and I think I'm gonna wrap up this video here, guys, and yeah. So with no further ado, guys, hope you have learned. Oh, just one quick thing before I go. On the refitting or the reinstallation of the turbo, nothing really special happened. It was just, again, nuts and bolts, blah blah blah, so nothing special. As I said, I would highlight anything that if I thought would be worth of mention, but nothing really. Was just straightforward, and so yeah. So now, yes, guys, with no further ado, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you have learned something. If you do still have any questions, any comments, you know how it works, just put them below. And like always, thank you for watching.